but we definitely have tools and instruments to still protect our kids and eliminate or at least reduce that damage. As Sayyid Saleh mentioned yesterday, strengthening our kids' faith has a significant impact on protecting them when facing these challenges. Just like you as parents, Mecca, as the only Shia Islamic community center in the area, has also been helping the kids and parents through offering a variety of programs for every age group throughout the year. This is our responsibility as well. But as you know, this community is growing fast, and hence the need of Mecca to expand its capabilities to support you and your families. Mecca today is giving you all the opportunity to be a part of this expansion. As you know by now, we are in the process of buying a land at Ridge Road, close to Ford Road. This land will support our vision to build a masjid and a community center to include things like gym, library, classes, and other venues to gather our families and kids in a safe environment centered around the love and the teaching of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. To ensure that every individual or family in the community can be part of this project, we have divided this land into a 99 mini lands, if you will, each labeled with one of Allah's 99 names. And we did an additional 114 mini lands with the names of each surah of the Quran. Any individual or a group of individuals, collectively, or families, can sponsor one of the names of Allah for $5,000 or a surah name for $3,000. So far, alhamdulillah, in the matter of only few months, we have raised close to $570,000, with our goal to raise a total of $950,000 in the coming 4 to 6 weeks to close on the land by the end of the summer. Brothers and sisters, you can look into this as a request to donate for Mecca, but is in fact an opportunity that Allah only gives for those whom He really loves, to pay for building a house of Allah and earn the privilege of having a hasana jariyah that gives you and your families blessings and hasanat 24/7, 365 days a year, and even after we leave this dunya. This is an investment in your dunya and akhirah, and when you invest in the way of Allah, your investment can only grows. مَا لِلَّهِ يَنْمُو, an investment that's guaranteed to succeed, and the result can be seen in the dunya before the akhirah, inshallah. Brothers and sisters, I won't take much more time here, but I want you, while you are listening for tonight's majlis and crying for the Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his family, to ask yourself, did I do enough to ensure that my kids and grandkids would continue to love and mourn Hussein alayhi salam for years to come, when probably I'm not around them anymore? Think of it, and inshallah be ready to raise your hand and pledge when this opportunity comes in. Inshallah, it comes in pretty soon. And now, I want to remind everyone to recite the Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha on the souls of the marhumin for the sponsors of tonight, and also for the Marhuma Hana Fawaz بعد الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. Without further delay, I'm honored to welcome Sayyid Saleh Qazwini after Salat ala Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين. For the love of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. One of the greatest gifts that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has endowed us all with is the gift of the mind, the gift of the aql, the ability to make choices in life. We have the freedom to make choices in life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the capability to make our own decisions in life and to express ourselves in the way that we see fit. You have the freedom of speech. You have the freedom of expression. One thing that makes the human being unique is the ability to communicate with one another. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considers this as one of the greatest favors of God upon us. Alam naj'al lahu aynayn, have we not given you eyes? Wa lisanan, and a tongue, and two lips. Wa shafatayn, wa hadaynahu an-najdayn, and we have shown you the way. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the gift of bayan. Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran khalaqa al-insan allamahu al-bayan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human being, and then He created the Quran for us as a blueprint to live our lives. And then He created the Ar-Rahman allama al-Quran. He created the Quran, and then He created the insan. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allamahu al-bayan. He gave you the ability to express yourself. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, today when we look at a society, we want to see how much freedom does this society have. One of the first measures to measure how much freedom and democracy is in a society is to see how much freedom of expression exists in this society. Do members in this society, are they free to express themselves? Or are they living under a dictator? Because today there are some countries, if you say one word, you might get your head chopped off. You write one tweet, you might end up in jail. You might end up in prison. And then there are other countries where you have the freedom to express yourself. You have the freedom to speak, the freedom of expression and the freedom of speech. And this is one of the main measures of a society. How free are people in that society? Today, many Muslims, my family specifically, came to this country because of freedom of speech. This is one of the reasons. Because many in Iraq were persecuted under the time of Saddam. If you say one word, you could go to jail. Many scholars, many ulama, they were killed because of the words that they uttered. So the freedom of expression is a valuable gift that we should not take for granted. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, when it comes to Islam as a religion, oftentimes Islam is under the microscope and Islam is being scrutinized and attacked. And one of the misconceptions against the religion of Islam is that, look at you Muslims, you give no freedom of expression. There's no freedom of speech in Islam. Anyone who says anything, right away this person is killed. Right away this person is imprisoned. You don't have the right. There are blasphemy laws and apostasy laws. And this is one of the misconceptions that are used against the religion of Islam, against the Quran. And then they come and they tell you, look at Europe. Look at the West. Look at how much freedom exists in these countries. How people are allowed to express themselves in however way they want. So let us address this issue. Islam as a religion, does it allow freedom of speech? Does it allow freedom of expression? And if it does allow in a society, if there was freedom of expression, how much freedom of expression and speech is healthy for a society, and how much and at what levels does it become unhealthy for a society and for a community? And then we will look at the double standards that exist and how fingers are pointed at the Muslim community, at Muslims, while those who are pointing their finger, they are also accused of restricting and suppressing freedom of speech and freedom of expression. When we look at the Quran, we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has inherently given every human being the ability to express themselves, the ability to speak, the ability to say what's on your mind. You have a mouth and you have a tongue, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the freedom to say whatever you want. Yes, Allah is watching. Allah is the judge. Allah tells us, don't say something that is not good for you. Don't say something that will end up hurting you. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادِ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Don't say that which you don't know. Don't say something that will end up harming people. However, inherently as a human being, before a Muslim, you have the right to express yourself. Look at the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us several examples of freedom of expression. When Allah created Adam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels, وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the angels, I'm placing a khalifa on earth. What did the angels say? قَالُوا أَتَجْعَلُ فِيهَا مَنْ يُفْسِدُ فِيهَا وَيَسْفِكُ الدِّمَاءَ وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ. The angels, they expressed what was in their heart. They spoke out. And they said, you're going to create someone, you're going to create on earth someone who's going to cause bloodshed and fighting, and we glorify you. What does this mean? This means that the angels had the freedom of expression. The angels, even though it is Allah, they had the freedom of expression. Furthermore, you see, Iblis, Shaitan, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered for the angels to bow to Adam, the angels, they made that expression and then they obeyed. They obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, Iblis, Shaitan, he says, no. أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْهُ. I am better than him. خَلَقْتَنِي مِن نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِن طِينٍ. I was created from fire and Adam was created from soil. Did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell him, no, that's it, you have no right to speak? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows us that even Iblis in the wrong, he had the freedom to express himself. The angels, they had the freedom to express themselves. Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cursed Iblis for saying that and for refusing to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but Allah kept him. قال فانظرني إلى يوم يبعثون قال فإنك من المنظرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept him. Today, you find some people, they don't even allow anyone to say a word to them. If you object, right away you're going to get your head chopped off. If you say a word, right away you're going to be killed and persecuted. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is God, Iblis, look at how Iblis speaks to God. Look at how the angels, they objected, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed them. Furthermore, there are examples of freedom of speech and freedom of expression from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Rasulullah, when he migrated from Mecca to Medina, one of the first things Rasulullah did as soon as he migrated is that he established the constitution of Medina, Mithaqul Medina. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he wrote in that, he gathered some of the Jewish tribes and some of the other non-Muslims, he gathered them and he says, and it was written down in that Mithaq, that every citizen of this city, every citizen of this town has the freedom to express themselves. The Jews, they had the freedom to worship. They had the freedom to believe. They had the freedom to practice their religion the same way the Muslims do. Today, some people, they come and they say, in Islam, Muslims cannot coexist with anyone. Muslims are intolerant of others. This is not true. In Islam, there is freedom of religion, freedom of expression, and there's tolerance to other faiths, to other practices. The same way Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, when he entered into Medina, he allowed the Jews and the tribes of the Jews to practice their faith and practice their beliefs. Furthermore, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi established a community that is based on democratic values, where the members of the community, they have the right to practice shura. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَالَّذِينَ اسْتَجَابُوا لِرَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةِ وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ. The Muslims, issues concerning them, issues concerning their lives, they had the right to have a council and they had the right to speak about it. Today there are some countries where if you say your opinion, you say what's on your mind, right away they're going to bring out the saw. That's it. There's no freedom of expression. There's no way to say what's on your mind. Rasulullah established a community based on shura, based on counsel. Yes, Rasulullah, the matter of imama, the matter of divine leadership, this is a matter that is not up to the people. Because people cannot choose who's the representative of God, but people could choose who represents them. This is why the matter of imama is a side issue. There's no shura in imama. But other issues, if we all want to gather someone that represents us for our worldly matters, then we could represent someone. Then we could appoint someone, democratically elect someone that represents us. We can't democratically elect someone that represents God, because that person would not, whoever it may be, that person would not be able to speak on behalf of God if this person has not been appointed by God. And look at the society in Medina. Rasulullah created an open society, a freedom-loving society, a society where freedom of expression was tolerated and allowed, and sometimes some of the Sahaba, they would transgress and abuse Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa because of so much freedom that was given to them. They would go to the Prophet and they would call him, Ya Muhammad ukhruj ilayna. Oh Muhammad, come to us. Until the Quran came and told them, no, this is not how you speak to Rasulullah. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, la tarfa'u aswatakum fawqa sawti nabi. Do not raise your voices over the voice of the Prophet, and do not call him the way you call each other. There were some cases where some of the Sahaba, because of so much freedom that was provided for them by Islam and by the Quran and by Rasulullah, that they thought that they could speak to Rasulullah however they want. One day a man by the name of Dhul Khuwaysirah, he comes to Rasulullah. Rasulullah was distributing some of the dirhams, some of the wealth, distributing it equally amongst the Muslims. One of the men, this man Dhul Khuwaysirah, he tells Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad i'dil. Oh Muhammad, be just. Rasulullah tells him, Adalt, I am just. He tells him, Ya Muhammad i'dil. Oh Muhammad, be just. Rasulullah tells him, Waylak, man ya'dil idha lam a'dil. Woe be upon you. If I'm not just, then who's going to be just? In another story, another man, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, one day he goes and he borrows money from some person. See how Rasulullah was? Today some people, they think that Rasulullah was living above people. Rasulullah, sometimes he would have to go and borrow money from people for his own personal life. This is how Rasulullah was. This is how he connected with people. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi borrowed money from this person, and then he goes and he pays back the person. He goes and he pays him back. But when he pays him back in private. No one saw when Rasulullah paid back the person. So then that man, he said, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to make some more money out of this. Maybe he forgot. He goes in front of the Rasulullah and he tells him, Ya Rasulullah, pay me back my money. Rasulullah told him, I paid you back. I gave you your money back. He says, no, you didn't. Rasulullah told him, I paid you back your money. He said, no, you didn't. One of the Muslims, Qazwini ibn Thabit, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm a witness that you paid him back. Rasulullah, he looked at him, he tells him, how are you a witness? You weren't there. How do you know that I paid him back? He tells Rasulullah, he tells him, Ya Rasulullah, we believe you when you tell us about heaven and hell. We believe you when you tell us about the life and the afterlife. I'm not going to believe you over dirhams, over a couple dollars and cents. Of course I'm going to believe you. So you see, Rasulullah created a community where there were some who were so ruthless and so disrespectful because they saw that there was so much freedom of expression. And there were others like Qazwini ibn Thabit, who Rasulullah calls him Dhush Shahadatain, the man whose shahada, whose testimony is equivalent to two people. And this man was killed with Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib in one of the battles. Now, you see, the level of freedom allowed some of those individuals to even disrespect Rasulullah. We all know what happened the last Thursday before the death of Rasulullah. Rasulullah passed away on Monday. The Thursday before is what is referred to as Raziyat al-Khamis. When Rasulullah was on his deathbed, and he tells the Muslims, he tells them, bring me. There were several men gathered around him. He tells them, bring me a pen and paper and I shall tell you that which you will never be misled after. One of them, he's gathered there. He says, يَكْفِينَا كِتَابُ اللَّهِ إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَهْجُرُ. The book of God is enough for us. The book of God is sufficient for us. The man is hallucinating. This is what is referred to as Raziyat al-Khamis, the calamity of Thursday that led to the day of Ashura. Because Rasulullah was not allowed to voice his opinion. Subhanallah, Rasulullah created a society, an atmosphere where everyone has the freedom of expression, but he was not given the opportunity to write his own will. He was not given an opportunity to say what he wants. And they say, Yakfina Kitabullah. So my dear brothers and sisters, these are all examples of tolerance, examples of freedom of expression that were created by the religion of Islam and by the Quran and by the Islamic values. And then you see Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, the rightful leader after Rasulullah, he comes and he follows the same principles, the same values as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Imam al-Sadiq, he says, one day, Amir al-Mu'mineen, during his Khilafah time, this is not the time in between. During his Khilafah time, he's praying the Fajr prayer and he is reciting the Quran in the masjid. And in the prayer, he's reciting the Quran, and one of the hypocrites by the name of Ibn al-Kawwa, this man, while Amir al-Mu'mineen was reciting the Quran, he also begins to recite the Quran. And the etiquette is that when the Quran is being recited, you should listen to it. So Amir al-Mu'mineen goes silent. He wants to see what verses of the Quran this man is reciting. And this man recites this verse, وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ لَإِنْ أَشْرَكْتَ لَيَحْبَطَنَّ عَمَلُكَ. And we have revealed to you and to those before you that if you do shirk, you lose all of your good deeds. He's accusing Amir al-Mu'mineen of doing shirk by reciting a verse in the Quran. Imam Ali alayhi salam, out of respect for the Quran, he goes silent. Then the man recites the verse again, and Amir al-Mu'mineen goes silent out of respect for the Quran. And then Amir al-Mu'mineen replies with a verse in the Quran. He says, فَاصْبِرْ إِنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ وَلَا يَسْتَخِفَّنَّكَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. Be patient. The promise of God is the truth. And do not let those who do not have faith and certainty belittle you. Look at the freedom. Which country right now, which democracy or non-democracy would allow someone to interrupt the head of state in such a way? Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib allowed someone to do so, and he let the man go. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he gave people the freedom of expression. And these are the real and true representatives of Islam and the representatives of the Quran. Yes, there were individuals that came after Rasulullah and after Amir al-Mu'mineen, like Muawiyah and Yazid. They did not give people the freedom of expression. Imam al-Hussein was killed because of his expression. Imam al-Hussein was killed because he objected to the ways of Yazid. Muawiyah killed hundreds of the Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi just because they did not agree with what he is doing. They did not agree with what he is saying. So we're not going to defend these individuals, but yes, we will defend Rasulullah. We will defend the Quran, and we will defend Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now, we spoke about the historical aspect regarding freedom of expression and freedom of speech. What about the legality? What about the laws, religious laws right now? Today, do we have total freedom of expression, total freedom of speech? And just like in any society, no, there isn't. There are some laws in Islam that are blasphemy laws. There are some laws that have to do with ridda, murtad, the one who rejects and leaves the religion of Islam. And these laws, the laws of freedom of expression, they center around the public good. If something is going to be good for all of society, then you're allowed to say it. If it's going to hurt society, then you are not allowed to say it in public. You're not allowed to hurt and abuse everyone in public. You want to do something in the privacy of your life? You want to do something in your own home? Do whatever you want in your home. But the moment you step outside in the public sphere, the moment you come outside and you're exposed to other people and other people are exposed to you, then there are different rules that you must abide by. The same way, a couple of years ago during COVID, we all remember, if you're in your home, if you have COVID, you have whatever it is, you're at home, no one's going to tell you to wear a mask. No one's going to come and tell you live your life this way and live your life that way, because you're in your own private home. But the moment you leave the house, the moment you step outside the house, now you're risking other people's lives. Now you're risking the health of other people. Now you could potentially kill someone. You could potentially hurt someone. Therefore, your rights are limited outside the house. And this is what Islam says. Isn't this common sense? This is a common sense law that the religion of Islam says. So yes, there are some blasphemy laws. There are certain things that you are not allowed to do in public. You do it in the privacy of your home. No one knows about it. This is between you and God. No one has anything to do with it. But the moment you come outside, then it becomes a public health issue. Then it becomes a social public issue. Then it needs to be addressed, and sometimes it needs to be restricted. I talked about this a little bit last night. Today, why are we saying we have to be careful about the books in the schools and what our kids are being subjected to and what our kids are watching publicly and what's out there, all out there, and our kids are being subjected to? Because it's an issue that is going to affect us. If you want to be a transgender, you want to carry the flag, you want to do whatever you want, do it in the privacy of your home. No one has anything to do with you. Go do whatever you want. But the moment you come outside and now you're risking my life and you're risking the life of my children and my neighbors and my community, then it becomes a public danger. These kids, a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old, they don't know everything. They could be easily misled. They could be easily fooled. You come and they're telling kids right now, you have the right to decide your gender. You could take your time and decide whatever gender you want. Take your time, no rush. And if you want to switch around, you want to jump around, that's something that's up to you. This is something that is hurtful. This is something that will hurt society. And everyone in society will suffer. Therefore, we say in Islam, no, you can't go and do this. You want to do it in your private life, go ahead and do whatever you want. Now, there are some laws. Some people, they come and they say Islam is a very extreme religion because Islam has blasphemy laws. Meaning if someone does irtidad, if someone does kufr, if someone leaves the religion of Islam, then the ruling is that this person is killed. Yes, this law does exist. However, there are heavy conditions and restrictions for the application of this law. This law cannot be applied in any circumstance. Any scenario, someone comes and questions God, questions their faith, right away you come and you call this person murtad, you're kafir, and right away kill this person. The same way ISIS and Taliban and Al-Qaeda were doing. No, that's not how it works. There are conditions, there are qualifications for these laws to apply. First of all, before we go far, all the fingers are pointed to Islam and Muslims. Go and look at the Bible. Go and look at other books. In fact, if you compare, go and Google words of violence in the Bible versus violence in the Quran. You will see that the previous scriptures have much more violence, words of violence, than the Quran. But today, all the fingers are pointed at Islam because it's all politicized. All the fingers and misconceptions and accusations are on Islam and Muslims. Second, my dear brothers and sisters, these laws of blasphemy, these laws of irtidad, these are not to be practiced in any scenario, in any circumstance. In a beautiful hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, he says that the laws of apostasy and blasphemy, they cannot be implemented in any scenario. He says, "Idra'ul hudud anil muslimin mastata'tum." Try to push away the hudud, the penal code. Try to push it away and remove it from the Muslims as much as you can. فَإِنْ وَجَدْتُمْ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ مَخْرَجًا فَخَلُّوا سَبِيلَهُم. Try to look for any excuse to let this person go. The same way Amir al-Mu'mineen did. The same way Rasulullah did. Look for any excuse. Whatever they come and they say, I didn't do this, okay, you go. Try to look for them an excuse. And then he says, فَإِنَّ الْإِمَامِ لَإِنْ يُخْطِئَ فِي الْعَفْوِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَنْ يُخْطِئَ فِي الْعُقُوبَةِ. He says, because the imam making a mistake and wrongfully letting someone go free, this is much better than wrongfully killing someone or hurting someone or punishing someone. Allahumma salli ala. So Rasulullah is saying, it's okay if you just close your eyes and make the mistake of giving, let someone go for free. Don't be so harsh with people. Don't be so difficult with people. This is one. Another very important point is that the person who's committing blasphemy, this person must not have any shubha in their mind. If someone has some misconception, today there are many of our kids. Today there are many people I know, they come and they question, Sayyid, tell me about God. I don't know, I don't have that conviction. I don't have that strong iman. Is this person a kafir for asking this question? Of course not. I tell them, this is very healthy that you're asking this question, because the fact that you're going through this process in your mind, you're trying to establish and convince yourself and reach conviction that God exists. Otherwise, no one is born. You're just born and right away you believe and you have 100% conviction. It's not like that. You have to build that iman. And in order to build that iman, sometimes you have to ask difficult questions. Sometimes you have to ask uncomfortable questions. But today there are some parents, if their kids are asking them about God, they say, shh, you're not allowed to talk about this. This is kufr, this is blasphemy. Why? How are they going to reach that level of iman if you're not even going to give them the chance to speak? This is why if anyone has shubha, if anyone has any questions in their mind, and they're doing kufr, they're doing blasphemy, the law does not even apply here for them. The law does not apply for them because they don't know. The reality. And believe me, my dear brothers and sisters, 99% of people that commit blasphemy, it's because they don't know the truth. 99% of people who come and say, I don't believe in God and this and that, the reason goes back to shubha, some kind of misconception in their mind. A few years ago, you all remember Terry Jones, right? Terry Jones, he came in front of the Islamic Center of America and he wanted to burn the Quran. That night, he had an interview here, one of the local channels in Detroit. He had an interview and the interviewer asked him, have you read the Quran? You want to burn the Quran. Have you read the Quran? Have you recited the Quran? He said, no, I haven't. And this is the reality of it. Most people that hate Islam, they have some type of hatred towards Rasulullah or the Quran, it's because they don't know anything. And my dear brothers and sisters, it's up to us to inform them. But we're not informing them either because we don't know either. And that's the biggest problem. So here, these are some of the laws regarding blasphemy. Otherwise, these laws are not to be implemented at all times. And then another condition and requirement for these laws to be applied is that it has to be a fair society, a just society, where all the laws of Islam are equally being established and practiced. Now, is having some limits to freedom of expression, is that a good thing or a bad thing? In some cases, it's a good thing. Right now in America, can you go and threaten your neighbor? Can you go and falsely lie and say something threatening someone or commit a hate crime? No, you can't. No one allows that. No one wants that. Freedom of expression and freedom of speech, it's supposed to be for the betterment of society, not to bring us down. You have freedom of speech, so now I'm going to go and give out threats here and there? No, no one allows that. There should be some sort of limit, some sort of line on freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And this is what Islam says. Islam says you're free, you could say whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not causing a moral decline in society, an ethical decline in society, then you're free to express yourself. This is what Islam says. But today you see the fingers are pointed to Islam and Muslims are accused of being undemocratic. You can't coexist with Muslims, they're intolerant, and all of these things. But let's hold on a moment. Come and look at those who are pointing the fingers. Look at them. Right now, there's something called shadow banning in social media censorship. Try going and writing something about Palestinians being oppressed by the Israelis. If you have an account on social media that has tens of thousands of followers, you say something that does not go in line with mainstream media, right away they'll shut it down. Right away, the algorithm, automatic, they don't have someone sitting there and, bringing it down. They've made the algorithm in a way where if your speech and your expression is not in line with that of mainstream media, or it is criticizing certain sacred things in this community and in this society, right away it will be shut down. Believe me. And go and do research about this. There have been articles written about this. There have been many influential Muslim scholars, influential individuals, political activists. When Israel is attacking Palestine, they come and they write about that right away. Their account that used to get 10,000 views, 20,000 views, suddenly it gets 1,000 views. It's shadow banned. This is a reality. Another example of limits to freedom of speech. Look, it's always the Muslims are being accused of limiting freedom of speech and no tolerance and no coexistence. Another example is a few weeks ago, the Michigan House passed a bill that could make using the wrong pronoun for a person a felony that is finable of up to $10,000. This was passed a few weeks ago. So say, for example, a guy goes and says, I'm a girl now, and I want to go with the her, she, her pronoun. And if you go by mistake, or you go and you call this person, hey, mister, because he looks like a mister, he sounds like a bear, and you come and you tell him, hey, mister, then you could get fined up to $10,000. Isn't this limits to freedom of expression? Isn't this limits to freedom of speech, where you don't even have the right to say, hey, mister? Look at the double standards. So you see, another example, and many of us know about this. Right now, Europe, they're always talking about, hey, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of expression, but a Muslim lady is not allowed to wear a burkini. We have all this freedom right now in 16 European countries, in Canada, in Australia. If you question the Holocaust, I'm not saying to do so. I'm just talking about stating a fact of a double standard. If you question the Holocaust in these 16 countries, Canada and Australia, you could be fined or you could be thrown in jail just by questioning the Holocaust. And then they want to come and burn our Quran every time they want to flex their muscles and say we have freedom of speech. We have freedom of expression. And recently, a few days ago, we all saw the Quran was burned once again. My dear brothers and sisters, burning the Quran is not going to take the Quran away from us. The Quran was memorized in the hearts of the mu'mineen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dared the jinn and the humans and everyone go and try to bring something that resembles the Quran. And they were not able to. Then Allah says, go and bring something that resembles one surah of the Quran, one chapter of the Quran. There's 114 chapters of the Quran. Try to make something that resembles it. No one was able to. The Quran is the miracle of Islam, and it is the words of God. But when you have a country that claims to be democratic and freedom loving, and we are tolerant to other people, we're going to be tolerant with people however they dress, but we're going to come and burn the Quran of the Muslims. We're going to allow that. Is that tolerance? Is that freedom? Is that how you show your freedom of expression, by allowing something that is sacred to 1.8 billion Muslims, by allowing it to be desecrated and burned? When the Quran is burned, it's not just a book that's going to offend the Muslims and it has something to do with Muslims. You're burning the teachings. You're burning the teachings of all the religions. You're burning the values and the principles and the teachings of Jesus and Moses and Abraham and all of the prophets. Right now, we Muslims, we love and we revere Jesus, Isa alayhi salam. Why? Because the Christians told us about him? Of course not. Because the Quran told us. Because the most authentic chain that tells us that the Quran, that Jesus was born through a miracle birth, is the Quran. Otherwise, the chains of narration that tell us that Jesus was born in such and such a way was lost in transition, if you count it through the rabbis and the Christians. But the Quran, because we know that the Quran is a miracle, therefore we take what the Quran tells us. So when you're burning the Quran, you're in fact burning the principles of Jesus and Moses and Abraham and Noah and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa, and they're all in one line. They're all the same. My dear brothers and sisters, another final reason why the Quran is being attacked, it's because of the weakness of the Muslims. Today, does someone dare talk about certain groups in this society? No, there are certain groups that no one dares speak out against them. Because the moment you speak out against them, you're going to be canceled. You're going to be labeled. That's it. But let's criticize Muslims, criticize the Quran, and it's okay. You have the freedom of expression and you have the freedom of choice. This is a sign of our weakness. And to strengthen ourselves, to strengthen our unity, we attend the majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein is the voice of the oppressed. Imam al-Hussein teaches us to speak truth to power. The same way he spoke truth to power until he was killed. The same way Zainab alayha salam stood in the court of Yazid and Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, and she showed them the truth. The same way Imam Zain al-Abidin in the chains, he stood in front of Yazid and he spoke to him. This is what the majalis of Imam al-Hussein do. They teach us to be strong no matter how weak you may be perceived. And second, the majalis of Imam al-Hussein teaches us to differentiate between the sacred and the profane, between that which is real, that which defends human rights and human values and ethics, Imam al-Hussein, and on one side, Yazid represents all of the values that contradict and go against human rights and human values. This is the whole mission of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. My dear brothers and sisters, tonight we remember Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil was the cousin of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And Imam al-Hussein, when he was in Mecca, the thousands of letters from the people of Kufa were coming to Imam al-Hussein telling him to join them and rise and be there for them. So Imam al-Hussein, he wanted to see, is there a reality in this movement? So he sends Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil, he manages to enter into Kufa because the governor of Kufa at that time was weak. And Nu'man ibn Bashir, he wasn't that strong of a character. Muslim was able to enter, and there was a rise in a Shi'i movement. There was a rise in a movement of followers of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and 18,000 people gave bay'ah to Muslim ibn Aqil in one day. 18,000 people gave allegiance to Muslim ibn Aqil, that once Imam al-Hussein comes, he is our leader. Muslim ibn Aqil, he wrote a letter to Imam al-Hussein. He tells him, Ya Aba Abdullah, come. Everything seems okay. 18,000 people gave me allegiance. Yazid, he saw that what had happened in Kufa, and he was losing control of Kufa. So he sends Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He sends Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to discreetly enter into Kufa. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad covers his face, and he enters into Kufa and he goes into the palace. There, once he's in the palace, he's in the headquarters, he started distributing money. He started slowly snatching this person, arresting this person, getting this person here and there, giving money here, using the carrot and the stick. And slowly, those supporters of Muslim ibn Aqil, they started become less and less and less. Muslim ibn Aqil, he was staying in the home of one of his companions by the name of Hani ibn Urwa. Hani ibn Urwa got arrested. Now Muslim ibn Aqil has nowhere to go. Muslim ibn Aqil, he's not from Kufa. He's a visitor. He was staying in the home of Hani ibn Urwa. Now Hani ibn Urwa has been arrested. Muslim ibn Aqil, he's in the masjid. He prays. He comes out all alone. No one is with him. Yesterday, 18,000. Today, you're all alone. And this is the reality of this life. There's a day where we will all stand all alone. Sometimes you have friends here and there. Be careful who your real friends are. Be careful who are those who will really stand with you in the thick and in the thin. Some people, they're hypocrites. Some people, they'll come and they'll show you that they're with you, but they might leave you. And this is what the people of Kufa did to Imam al-Hussein and to Muslim ibn Aqil. Of course, many of the real Shi'as were arrested. Many of the real loyal followers, they were persecuted. However, Muslim ibn Aqil remained all alone, and he begins to walk in the alleys of Kufa all alone. He has nowhere to go. He sees a lady standing in front of her home, and he stands next to her. She tells him, "Who are you and what do you want?" She tells him, "What do you want?" He tells her, "I want some water." She brings him some water, and then she sees him, he's still standing there. She tells him, "What are you doing? You're a man, you're a stranger. Why are you standing in front of my home?" He tells her, "Ana Muslim ibn Aqil. I'm alone. I have no one here. I am the ambassador of Imam al-Hussein. I was sent here. The people have all betrayed me." She tells him, "You're Muslim? Come in, welcome." And she brings him in. And Muslim, he stays those couple hours at night in her house. He spends the night praying and worshiping. By morning time, her son had gone and told the authorities. Her son went and told the authorities. And at Fajr time, The house of that lady has been surrounded by soldiers. A full army has surrounded Muslim ibn Aqil. Muslim ibn Aqil, he comes out and they try to arrest him. He takes out his sword and he begins to fight them courageously. He begins to remind them of the bravery of Amir al-Mu'mineen. One group fight, he knocks them away. Another group, they're sent, and they keep sending more men and foot soldiers. And Muslim ibn Aqil is standing, but slowly he's getting injured and injured. Until one of the men, he hides behind a wall and he stabs Muslim ibn Aqil in his back. And Muslim falls to the ground. Another man strikes him on his mouth and his lips begin to bleed. Then they gather around Muslim and they tie him in the ropes. Then they begin to take Muslim ibn Aqil to the palace of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. They take him to the palace of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. They tell him, why don't you say salam to the Amir? He doesn't say salam to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. He tells them, my Amir is Hussein, my master, my Mawla is Hussein. I don't have an Amir other than Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, he says whether he says salam or not, he's a dead man. He tells them to take him to the roof of the palace and there kill him. They dragged Muslim ibn Aqil on top of the palace. Muslim ibn Aqil was thirsty at that moment. He asked them for some water. They brought him some water. He placed the water near his mouth. But because his lips were bleeding, his blood fell into the water, and Muslim did not drink from that water because the water has been contaminated and become najas. So they bring him another cup of water, and once again it becomes bloody with his blood. Muslim, he says, I don't want to drink water. Subhanallah, Imam al-Hussein and all of his companions, including Muslim ibn Aqil, were killed thirsty. Then Muslim ibn Aqil, he prays 2 rak'ahs. He asks them to pray 2 rak'ahs. They tell him, go ahead and do whatever you want, you're a dead man. He prays his 2 rak'ah prayers. Then he faces towards the direction of Hijaz, towards the direction of the side where Imam al-Hussein is coming from. And he begins to cry. They tell him, oh Muslim, why are you crying? You fought so bravely and courageously. He tells them, I don't cry for myself. I cry for Hussein and the children of Aba Abdullah. They are on their way to Kufa, not knowing that I have been betrayed. He faces Hijaz and he says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. ارجع من حيث أتيت فإن القوم قد غدروا بي. Oh Hussein, go back, don't come here. They have all betrayed me. They decapitate the head of Muslim and they throw the body of Muslim ibn Aqil down the palace. Then they tie the ropes to the feet of Muslim ibn Hani ibn Urwa and they begin to drag them in the streets of Kufa. فيا ابن عقيل فدتك النفوس لعظم رزيتك الفادحة بكتك دما يا ابن عم الحسين مدامع شيعتك السافحة لأنك لم تروى من شربة ثناياك فيها غدا الطائحة رموك من القصر إذ أوثقوك فهل سلمت فيك من جارحة. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was traveling to Kufa. He sees 2 men approach from the direction of Iraq, the direction of Kufa. He asks them, what is the latest news that you have in Kufa? They tell him, Ya Aba Abdullah, the last thing we saw as we were leaving Kufa were the bodies of Muslim and Hani ibn Urwa being dragged in the streets of Kufa. Imam al-Hussein begins to cry and he says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Call for me Hamida, the daughter of Muslim. Muslim had a young daughter. Imam al-Hussein's her uncle. Hamida, the daughter of Muslim, she comes. Imam al-Hussein, he sits her in his lap. He begins to wipe his hand on her head. She sensed that Imam al-Hussein is treating her the same way he treats the orphans. She tells him, Ya Aba Abdullah, araka tasna'u bi ma yusna'u bil aytam. I see you're treating me the same way you treat the orphans. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. My dear brothers and sisters, before we conclude with the dua, I have a very important message I wanted to share with you all. As you know, we've been in this building for 1 year now. Last year, Muharram, was the first year that we took the keys, and we had taken the keys just 2-3 weeks before Muharram. And we had the Muharram program here, and we commemorated the Muharram program, and we announced that we are going to be having a Sunday school. We announced that we're going to be having programs. And alhamdulillah, since last year, the size of the community here and the needs of the community here have grown. And as you have all noticed and seen, we have outgrown this place. We were holding the Sunday school in this building and in the prayer room. We had 3 classes here with partitions and 2 in the prayer room. And because we ran out of space, we ended up renting the building next door. We ended up renting office space and we converted it into classrooms. Inshallah, next year, register your kids. In the Sunday school, there's going to be much greater space and a more comfortable space. We ended up renting this room next door as an office because we took down the office from here. So we are trying to make this place as comfortable as possible. But the size of the community, no matter how many walls you take down, the size of the community requires a bigger place. The brothers and the sisters in the community, they said, let's look for a church. We started looking for a church. We didn't find anything. There's no churches in this area. So then they said, let's look for a piece of land and we will build it how we want. We will put a gymnasium in it. We will put library. We will put a study space for the kids. We will focus on the youth and we will make a community center, not just a masjid. Not just a masjid. We are looking to make a community center and a place that meets the needs of every person, no matter what age you are, the young and the old, but a specific focus on the young, specific focus on the youth. Most of our programs are circled around the youth. And another very important feature is that there's a diversity in this community. The main language is the English language, but we have people from all Muslims, whoever you are welcome to come here. If you're Arab, you're non-Arab, you're from Pakistan, you're from Iran, you're from Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever you may be, everyone is welcome here. And the programs are meant to be in that way. So a couple weeks ago, or 2 months ago, we found this piece of land on Ridge Road and Ford Road. This land costs $960,000. And alhamdulillah, to this date, we've raised close to $570,000. We signed. We said we're going to have reliance on Allah, and we signed, and we need the help of the community. You see these highlighted names here, the names of Allah, the highlighted names, each one represents $5,000. There are some people they took for themselves, for their wife, for the wife, for herself, for the children, for every member in their family. And some people they took one. Some people cannot afford 5,000. The surahs of the Quran, they are at 3,000. If we are able to get contributions that complete all of the names of God and all of the surahs in the Quran, then we will have reached our goal. And we are very close. We are at 570. We need to reach 960. So, my dear brothers and sisters, we need to see a show of hands of individuals that are willing to support, and the brothers are going to bring the papers. Brother Hassan, please come forward. And they're going to bring the papers so that we can, insha'Allah, achieve our goal. How many people, who is the first person that, insha'Allah, would like to raise their hand and show their support? And you could give a donation of 5 or more. The more, the better. And inshallah, we will be able to achieve our goal. If anyone wants to be the first, please raise your hand. Okay. Hajj Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brother Muhammad, we will recite a Surah Al-Fatiha for the soul of his daughter who passed away several days ago. I ask you all to recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. The faster we do this, the faster we will finish. We don't want to take too much time. Okay, one hand over there. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Anyone else? These are the nights of the commemoration of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein gave everything that he had for the sake of the religion of Islam. Giving a little bit for the sake of the faith, giving a little bit for our values, for our children, it's not going to be hurtful. Please, brothers and sisters, if you can raise your hands. If you cannot give 5, you could give 3, you could give 1,000, you could give however much you like. Just raise your hands and take these papers so that insha'Allah we will be able to continue. Naam? Okay, one over there, please. Okay, we will conclude with the dua, inshallah, and we ask you all to please talk to your friends, to talk to your relatives, to talk to family members. I know many people in this community have already donated, and we are asking for others, those who have not participated, to participate. This is an opportunity. This is something that will happen. Whether we are a part of it or not, it's going to happen. If we don't do it, a generation after us will come and do this. And this is something that will surely happen. So please talk to whoever you can, and inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. تابع اللهم بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات. إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك غافر الخطيئات، إنك على كل شيء قدير. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي ثواب الفاتحة مع الصلوات. اللهم صل على
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
The moon of Muharram, times of sadness have come. The crescent has now arrived, casting gloom on Karbala, casting gloom on Karbala. The moon of Muharram, times of sadness have come. The crescent has now arrived, casting gloom on Karbala, casting gloom on Karbala. Betrayal by the Kufans set this moon on its course, calling out for their God. Treachery with no remorse, Muslim and his sons. What a tragedy! Oh, what calamity! The moon bleeds to foresee. The moon bleeds to foresee. The moon of Muharram. Everyone, times of sadness have come. The crescent has now arrived, casting gloom on Karbala. Casting gloom on Karbala. On the ninth they heard the prayers of those pure souls. Fought the rising sun, for perhaps this could be its role. Akbar's azan so clear, this moon filled with fear. How will it possibly arise and seize the state of those dear? And seize the state of those dear. The moon of Muharram, times of sadness have come. The crescent has now arrived, casting gloom on Karbala. Casting gloom on Karbala. It saw the 6-month infant, no water but an arrow. That night it shone its light on Rabab, filled with such sorrow. To see my Yazghar I crave. I hear nothing but his cries. Oh son, please do not arise. And with this mother sympathize. And with this mother sympathize. The moon of Muharram, times of sadness have come. The crescent has now arrived, casting gloom on Karbala. Casting gloom on Karbala. The moon of Muharram, times of sadness have come. The crescent has now arrived, casting gloom on Karbala. Casting gloom on Karbala.
أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. ثانيا على حب الحسن والحسين بأعلى أصواتكم. يا حسين ومصابه، يا حسين ومصابه، يا حسين ومصابه، يا حسين ومصابه، يا حسين ومصابه. انت القدمت روحك واهل بيتك، انت القدمت روحك واهل بيتك، وهذاني قصر بيش جازيتك، لساني انقطع لو قال وفيتك، لساني انقطع لو قال وفيتك، ولو انطي عمرها ما اوفي الدين. يا حسين ومصابه، يا حسين حسين جانب من عبده سرايته حسين جانب قزار بابايته حسين جانب دلم شد مبتلايا تو حسين جانب تمامي عيش من شد روتو مولاي يا حسين ومصابه يا حسين ومصابه يا حسين يا حسين ومصابه لما هوى لما رموه بالرمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما هوى لما هوى لما هوى لما رموه بالرمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما هوى لما هوى لما رموه بالرمى لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى لما هوى لما رموه بالرمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما لما هوى لما رموه بالرمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما لما هوى لما رموه بالرمى لما هوى على ومسلما لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما إليك لما هوى لما رموا بالرمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما صوت على مسلما قبل أن يلقوه من قصر الإمارة بدماه خط للدهر عبارة بدماه خط للدهر عبارة اجعلوا العمر مع السبط تجارة أنفقوه واختموه بالزيارة أنفقوه واختموه بالزيارة يا كربلاء فلتشهدي لي بالوفاء يا كربلاء قولي لسبط المصطفى يا كربلاء ذا مسلم قد سلم لما هوى لما هوى لما رموه بل رمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما مسلم كالدر ما بين الهواشم في علي لم يخف لومة لائم في علي لم يخف لومة لائم وفداه بعد سياف وظالم رض منه الجنب كالزهراء فاطم رض منه الجنب كالزهراء فاطم للمرتضى قد كان سيفا باترا للمرتضى ما زال صوتا هادرا للمرتضى في القول والفعل انتمى لما هوى لما رموه بل لما ضمته أضلع السماء صوت على ومسلما لما هوى لما رموه بل رمى لما ضمته أضلع السماء لما صوت على لما لما كيف لا يجري عليه دمع عيني كيف لا يجري عليه دمع عيني وعليه قد بكت عين الحسين وعليه قد بكت عين الحسين وحسين عين رب المشرقين وحسين عين رب المشرقين ذاك فضل شق فضل الثقلين ذاك فضل شق فضل الثقلين يا عبرتي يا عبرتي نوحي عليه للأبد يا عبرتي حتى تفوزي بالرغد يا عبرتي قد حق أن أبكي دما لما هوى لما رموه بل رمى لما هوى ضمته أضلع السماء لما هوى صوت على ومسلما لما هوى لما رموه بل رمى صوت على لما هوى يا مسلم وفيت عهودك يا مسلم وفيت عهودك يا مسلم باسمي حسين انت والثائر تتقدم وعلى الحق سائر ما فل عزمك جيش الجائر وتحديت الكوفة بزودك يا مسلم وفيت عهودك يا مسلم وفيت كل الناس انقلبت ضدك وانت بميدان الحق وحدك سيفك يرسم لوحة مجدك سيفك يرسم لوحة مجدك وبهذا تحقق مريودك يا مسلم وفيت دك يا مسلم وفيت ثابت يوم الموت الأحمر عزمك جد عزمة حيدر، تتخطى على جسوم العسكر حتى توصل يم مقصودك يا مسلم، وفي حودك يا مسلم، حودك يا مسلم. قالوا لك عوف ابن الزهرة، قالوا لك عوف ابن الزهرة، واتبع ابن زياد وأمره، لن تهتف هيهات تبره، لن تهتف هيهات تبره، وبهالصرخة توفي عهودك يا مسلم، وعهودك يا مسلم. قالوا لك عوف ابن الزهرة، قالوا لك عوف ابن الزهرة، واتبع ابن زياد وأمره، لن تهتف هيهات تبره، وبهالصرخة توفي عهودك يا مسلم، وفي عهودك يا مسلم، وفي عدودك يا مسلم.
This will be a short one. Please help me, okay? جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء، قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما. جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء، قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما، قاتلوا ابن عقيل. جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء، قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما. جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء. Everyone, everyone. جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء، قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما. لكوفنا من بعيد قد دعي، غادر فيه الداعي ابن الداعي. لكوفنا من بعيد قد دعي، غادر فيه الداعي ابن الداعي. لحسين بعد موت قد نوعي، تكريمه علويا مسلما. قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما. جودي يا عين. Everyone. جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء، قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما. قاتلوا ابن معشر لم يعرفوا طعم الفدا، تركوا الحق وباعوا المسجد. معشر لم يعرفوا طعم الفدا، تركوا الحق وباعوا المسجد. سهم غدر لفؤاد سددا، دون رأس على الأرض غدا. قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما، قاتلوا ابن عقيل مسلما. جودي يا عين. قاتلوا جودي يا عين وفيدي بالدماء، قاتلوا وحسين يمسح رأس اليتيم يطلب العون من الرب العظيم. وحسين يمسح رأس اليتيم يطلب العون من الرب العظيم. يا إلهي يا رجائي يا كريم، يا إلهي يا رجائي يا كريم، انصر المظلوم واهلك ظالما. قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما، قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما. جودي يا عين، قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما. جودي قاتلوا زينب تبكي فتبكي كل عين، زينب تبكي فتبكي كل عين. أين مسلم يا أخي يا حسين، زينب تبكي فتبكي كل عين. أين مسلم يا أخي يا حسين. فأجاب الصبت بقلب حزين، نكت البيعة أعداء السماء. قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما، قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما. جودي ما عاقل مسلما. جودي يا عين وافيدي بالدماء. قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما، قاتلوا ابن عاقل مسلما. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.